another episode of the Creative Coach Podcast. I am your host, Sarah, and today I have Alisha with me, who is the her of Him, Her Photography. And Alisha and her husband do a lot. And so I'm not going to butcher her intro. I'm going to let her tell you about herself and everything that they're into.
Well, hey Sarah. Yeah. So my husband and I were Him and Her Photography. We've been wedding photographers for about 14 years. So right after we got married, we started taking photos of our friends' weddings and just really fell in love with it. So, it's always been part of our journey, like through our career. We also finished college. I ended up getting a master's degree in education. I was a teacher for a while. So was my husband, Josh. We are both out of the classroom now and pretty much doing this full time. So we really love it. Weddings are our favorite, but we also love doing other types of photography too. We do maternity. I do a little bit of boudoir. We've done a little bit more of like the business corporate side with some branding or real estate. We've tried a little bit of everything, but we've really found that weddings are what we absolutely love to do the most. But yeah, we homeschool our kids. We love to garden. We have, a million hobbies. So just all the things. But we really enjoy doing this, and we enjoy encouraging other people in the wedding industry, other vendors, whether they're photographers, bakers, all that stuff. So we love helping other people see their businesses grow as well.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, y'all do so much. Like, y'all are so busy. I don't know how you do it.
Either, but we're here. It's fine.
Yeah. And you'll have like a bunch of kids. And
We have
I
two,
don't know how you do
we
it.
do we've got two girls that just are along for the ride with us. It's pretty great.
Yes, they're awesome. So I know today we're talking styled shoots. And actually, at one of the styled shoots we were at, you had one of your daughters in tow, which was so
She
fun.
comes along. Yeah, they come alongside sometimes. I'll usually end up handing them my phone and, here, get some, footage for me, some little behind the scenes, because I always forget to do that. I'm absolutely terrible at that. So, here, stay busy, have fun. And they love chatting with the other vendors too. Like my daughter loves talking with the florist because she's obsessed with flowers. And my older daughter loves, trying to get creative with different camera angles and stuff too. So it's a family thing. We love it.
That's awesome. So yeah, well, we'll just dive right into the styled shoots. I'm sure there's a lot to cover in the styled shoot world.
Absolutely.
So for those who don't know or who might be brand new to like the wedding industry, real quick, how would you define a styled shoot?
So I would say a styled shoot is anything that you are putting together that is outside of your typical wedding. You're not necessarily working for a client that's, your subject of your photography. Though some people will hire you to put on a styled shoot, like different venues, for example, you can hire you to design a styled shoot for them. But for the most part, it's just a shoot where you're getting to be creative, you're getting to try new things, and you're getting to create content. They can have other purposes, but that's pretty much it. That's the basis of a styled shoot.
Yeah, love it. And I think too, like in the wedding industry in particular, because there's all kinds of styled shoots. They could literally be any theme. But in the wedding industry in particular, I feel like a lot of them have the elements of an elopement, or like a faux wedding or an
Yeah.
elopement type thing. Like in the wedding industry, they're obviously wedding specific. But yeah, there's lots of different kinds. But a lot of wedding vendors listen to this podcast. So I'm going to go a little bit more wedding specific, but just know it can be a styled shoot for anything, any company, any industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any sort of shoot where you're trying to create content, really.
Mhm.
They're a content shoot. They can go beyond that a little bit, but yeah, the wedding vendors are a huge part of that. But businesses for branding shoots, some people consider a branding shoot a type of styled shoot because you're setting up, a situation that I don't want to say inauthentic, but it's not necessarily like it's happening in the moment. You're planning ahead, you're anticipating the types of photos you want to get, the type of content you need. A good styled shoot has a plan involved.
Yeah. Yes. So the purpose of a styled shoot, I would say, is really like to get content. And there's lots of different purposes people put on styled shoots. I think some really popular ones are to like level up, to try to get into the next bracket of a sort of business, elevate your portfolio, your style, your brand, just like show up and show out your talent. Like a florist in particular, if they haven't had the opportunity on a paid job to make like something they've had envisioned or some kind of really grand floral that they just have always really wanted to do, like a styled shoot is a space where they can come in and do that. So I think
Yeah.
that's a huge purpose. Yeah, what do you
Oh,
think?
I do. I think that's one of the main purposes. Like when I started doing style shoots, or I guess when they became popular, was it really was for, well, if you're not getting the clients you necessarily want, or you're not getting clients that feel brave enough to kind of explore color or explore these different concepts in their wedding or for their brand, or they maybe are a little hesitant to, like you said, a florist wants to do a big floral arch and they just haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. I think these style shoots are a great way to stretch your legs creatively. And, whether that is through the type of photography you're doing, maybe you want to branch out into film photography and, you are kind of scared to do that for a paying client because you have something you can do well, and it's kind of hard to test the waters a little bit. So these shoots provide an awesome opportunity to do that, whether you're putting them on yourself, you're buying a ticket to do that. And another great thing that they do is really build collaboration within a vendor community. There might be a planner that you really want to work with, you haven't had a chance to do that with, or a florist, or even another photographer. And you can collaborate on these styled shoots to create something really beautiful. And it builds that sense of community within these industry professionals.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think most styled shoots, well, I wouldn't say most, probably 50-50 of the styled shoots that I attend there's like an invited photographer or videographer, and there's only one. And that's
Mhm.
like one type of styled shoot. But I think the more common type of styled shoot is someone's putting on a major shoot and they're selling tickets. And so there's
Yeah.
multiple photographers, multiple videographers showing up to take this content, and they've hired maybe a model couple, they've got a florist who's providing the florals and things like that. And those kinds of shoots have like an unwritten code of conduct. And I
Yeah.
wanted to get into that a little bit today, just to like
Yeah.
set the record straight.
Too. We've planned a couple of shoots like that, and I will say those shoots can be any ticketed shoot. They can be really kind of small and intimate, and they can be huge.
Mhm.
There's companies like Style Shoots Across America that puts on these huge shoot crawls, and they're using tons of models and all kinds of vendors, and they're doing different, setups throughout the property, or even multiple properties if it's a crawl. And you can, have a ton of different photographers you have to work with. But whether it's an intimate where there's 5 photographers or 3 photographers, or it's this huge shoot where you're working with dozens of other photographers, there is definitely some unwritten rules of how we want to work together to make sure everybody's successful. And I think sometimes people miss that, or people just aren't aware sometimes.
Yeah.
When we've done a ticketed shoot, um, well, first of all, I'll make a note just on the ticket part, because I think there's a misunderstanding about that too, is that, if you're getting charged $100, $500, $1,000 for your tickets for the shoot, most of the time, the person hosting the shoot is not getting any money back on that. They are not making a profit. This isn't, a full-time job for them. It's typically, just a passion project, or just, again, a creative outlet. And so when those ticket prices go out, they're typically based on what are the costs of the florals, or did we have to hire a model? Are we reimbursing the person that made the cake for their ingredients? Usually these are collaborative. They're going to be getting photos back. So it's not like they're getting nothing out of it, but typically a ticketed charge is because there are some one-time use items that just cannot be paid for, out of that one vendor's pocket. So we kind of spread the love a little bit and help
Yeah.
pitch in toward that cost.
Especially
You know,
florals.
oh
I,
my gosh, floral,
yeah,
yeah, crazy, crazy expensive for florals these
I
days.
was at
And,
brunch. Oh, sorry, I
yeah,
just cut you off. I was at brunch recently with a very talented florist. We were all in a group, and this florist was there who's like so good, does the most gorgeous work. And they were saying that for some styled shoots and when they're asked to like sponsor open houses at venues and provide the florals, they can spend upwards of $7,000 wholesale. And like they'll donate their labor for free, but sometimes they're not reimbursed for their wholesale costs of their flowers. And so like on a styled shoot, when you're buying a ticket, I would say the highest, like the most expensive piece of that styled shoot is probably going to be the florals. Because that's one, what's going to anchor the shoot as like luxury. The florals kind of set the tone for the way the shoot's going to be, I think, for the most part. So lush florals means expensive, which means luxury. It's going to be a nicer looking shoot overall.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's anytime we've hosted a shoot, that is 100% our top expense. And again, the florists, like you said, they've given their time, they're giving their talent, they're delivering, they're not charging us a delivery fee typically, all of that stuff they are, adding to the shoot, but they still have to cover that wholesale cost of florals. And I totally agree with what you said. The florals are going to make the shoot. So, if you are wanting content that you've really never gotten to shoot before, typically that's going to be big floral pieces, big luxurious floral pieces that feel very high end. And so when you're investing money in a shoot, that's, the more you're investing, that's what you should be seeing back on a shoot are the florals a little more maybe over the top than what I've seen at a typical wedding or, things like that. So yeah, that ticket bit, that's when we're talking about, when we're talking about just sort of these rules towards styled shoots. There is sometimes a lot of feedback of why is this so expensive? We're all supposed to be collaborating. Why is one vendor getting paid or one vendor not getting paid? Then that's kind of why. It's just there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with logistics and planning that people really are giving their time and their heart towards, but there are some things that we have to pay for. So I think that does carry over into sometimes the mood of the shoot. And like you were saying, those kind of rules of engagement when you're at the shoot.
Yes.
I think there are expectations of some people of, I've invested so much money into this shoot to be here. I've paid my 500 or my 1,000 or $2,000 to be here. So I need to make sure I get the content I want. And that is true to a point, but there also has to be that spirit of working together of, we do have a limited amount of time with maybe this model or this couple before we have to move on to another station. But if we can work together, we can all get the content we want and we can all feel encouraged by each other and not feel like we're stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm going to say something controversial. That's totally fine. Y'all can for me in the comments. But if you show up to a styled shoot with only a 35 millimeter lens, everyone wants you to leave. I'm just going to say it. And the reason is if you're showing up with like one focal length and it's wide, you're going to be like standing in front of everybody. And this is a huge piece of like the unwritten code of conduct and the etiquette around a styled shoot is there's multiple photographers there who are going to be shooting on every kind of focal length, like 85s to 70 to 200 people. They need space. They're going to be standing further back from the couple. So if you're just not aware of your surroundings or you didn't come prepared with like your lens arsenal and you're just standing right in front of the couple the whole time, only shooting wide, directing them the whole time and like hogging them and being in the way of everybody, that's a huge no-no. So it's totally fine to shoot on a 35, but you need to be aware that there's other people there shooting on longer focal lengths. So you need to like make sure you're not standing in front of them the whole day and give people chances to shoot these really long shots, tight shots, and everyone can kind of move and work together. I've done a few styled shoots, and the way I like to set them up is to just let everybody know, like, hey, as we're moving from scene to scene and you're maybe posing the couple or you move from room to room, start really far back and move in. Because if those 35 millimeter photographers get right up in the couple's face at the very beginning, no one else can get anything else because they're right there. And it's a problem. And I've seen shoots go really south really fast because of that.
I love my 35 millimeter. I'm a 35 girly. It's one of my favorite lenses.
Me too.
Because I love My husband is different. He loves shooting Zoom. So he's got two bodies where he has his 2870 and he has a 7200. And so like wedding day, he's got the full range. And I'm over here like, the one switching lenses, but I just love primes. So I get it. I do love my 35. But yes, at a shoot, you have to be ready to kind of feel what's going on. If you are in a group of photographers and you're all shooting those wide focal lengths, great, you can kind of help each other out. But like you said, if you've got someone that is shooting those, those different lenses, you've got to communicate of, hey, I really need this shot close up. So when you're done, can I XYZ? Personalities being what they are, there is typically a photographer that is a little more take charge than others, and they will begin directing and they'll begin kind of moving the group in a certain direction. Whether they're shooting out a 35 or an 85 or whatever. And if your lens isn't, kind of doing what they're directing to do, you might not get the content you want. So it is good, like you said, to have that arsenal of, okay, well, let me switch to this lens. Or, I don't always shoot a 7200, but when I'm at a styled shoot, I always have that lens with me, because if I'm stuck in a group that maybe personalities aren't necessarily meshing, I can stand in the back and zoom in and get the shot that I really want.
Yeah.
So, just having, and if you're a newer photographer, you may not have that stuff, and that's okay. It's things that you can build up to. But being aware, like you said, it's the awareness is really part of that etiquette bit of, I know I'm always bad for throwing up an elbow to get my shot. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So
watch out.
I do that to my husband too. I have her babe elbow like 100 times a day during a wedding, so it's fine. But it's just that awareness of like what's going on in that group. And I will make that note too, as we're talking about etiquette, if you are a photographer that's a bit more soft spoken, you don't necessarily always take charge, or you're not someone that gives a ton of direction, you probably will get stepped over on on a styled shoot, because there are people that go in and they're like, I need this, I need this, I need this shot, I know what I need, I have a plan. For those people, I would also say maybe dial it back a little bit, work with your group, but also for the people, don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to communicate, hey, I really would like this shot. Can we prioritize that before we have to move on to our next station, or move the couple or whatever we need to do? Because everyone there is almost in their own little world sometimes of, again, trying to get that checklist in their head, and they may not realize, oh, this person wanted to do something different. So definitely speak up for yourself,
Yeah. Speak up, be aware, read the room. Like you can see on people's faces when they're aggravated. So like peek around every once in a while and see like, okay, is someone looking sad? Like they're not getting what they want? Maybe ask them like, hey, do you need something? What can we do for you? Like it's not worth people leaving upset, in my opinion, when it takes 10 seconds for everybody to like part the Red Sea for someone to get a shot. You know what I mean?
And if you're asked to move or you're asked to do something different, don't take it personal. I think that's a big thing that people, I'll just share. The last shoot we did it's a newer venue in North Carolina. I know you've been there, the Oxbow, gorgeous. There's these huge mirrors upstairs, and we were trying to get the bride model's reflection in the mirror. And there was another photographer that was kind of standing off to the side, but we could see her full body in the mirror. And it was just like, hey, do you mind moving so we can get this shot? And she was extremely offended. I'm not sure why, but she was just very offended that we asked her to move, and we're like, nothing personal, girl. You're in the mirror.
Yeah, like, we want a mirror shot and you're in the mirror.
And it's, again, being aware of your surroundings, but even if you're not aware and someone, not calls you out, but someone says, hey, can you move? Or, hey, can you hold on just 1 second while we do this? Just letting things roll off your back, not taking things personally. Everyone is kind of there on a mission, and trying to get everybody on the same page, especially if it's a huge group of people, can be really difficult. And, if you're hosting the shoot, there's some things I think you can do. Maybe we can get into that too, if you want, but things you can do try to smooth things over. But as far as like, as you being a shooter, I think that etiquette bit is just so important.
Yeah, super important. And we were at a shoot a while ago over the summer that disintegrated into chaos so fast. Like we walked in and the vibes were off. Everyone was just aggravated. And that was why no one was there to like collaborate or work together. And the hosts, I'm not going to out who the company is, but the host did not do a good job of setting it up, executing, planning. Like the whole thing was just a mess. And you just leave those shoots feeling bad. You're like, I did not enjoy myself. I did not want to be there. and you do what you got to do and you move on. So yeah, just be nice to people. It's not that hard.
And I think if you're someone that's been in the business for a long time, like I said, we've done this for 14 years and I have an education background. So I am used to walking in the room and having to like, okay, well, I guess I need to take charge because nobody else is. And that's just part of group dynamics when you're around people. But sometimes that can be beneficial. I've been put into groups with photographers that are so new and they're here to learn. And I'm more than happy to be like, try this, do this. There's nothing wrong with really trying to pour into other people and collaborating at these shoots and kind of seeing what people need. I've had people ask me about camera settings. I've had people go, can I just watch you post them? Your post flow is awesome. And I just want to soak it in. And they're fine with someone taking charge for a minute. But you can't let that dominate the whole day. You're not there. It's not about you. It's what can I do to encourage these other people? So yeah, I mean, that etiquette group dynamics, I don't think you see that any clearer than when you get like 20 photographers in a room and you say, all right, we have a couple, let's shoot them. Like, let's shoot them. Let's photograph them. Let's all try to get the shots that we really want, and do them differently. So we don't have all have the exact same image on our Instagram. So
Yeah. And we're also used to working by ourselves too. Like this is a solo game. We work by ourselves all the time. So when you show up and you now have to work with 20 people, it will throw you. I'm not gonna lie, it's a learning curve. So yeah, definitely just like being aware of your surroundings and working with other people is a huge part of the etiquette. And then on the back end, typically on a styled shoot, you are expected to share your imagery, whether it's a paid shoot, like you've paid to go, or someone has invited you to come and be like the exclusive photographer for their shoot or something. So can you speak to that? And I know some people have different feelings about it, but it is what it is. This is kind of how styled shoots work. You're expected to give your images to the vendors who participated to put the shoot on.
Yeah, and there's always something a little different with the expectation. So when you are signing up for a shoot, typically you have to sign like a vendor contract or photography contract, part of the model release, all of that stuff. And if there are shoots where that's not happening, I'm going to warn you, they should be happening. There should be some sort of expectation of, deliverables, things like that you're signing when you buy a ticket to a shoot. So if there are, unless these are people personally, and I would still say you probably still need some sort of photography agreement, even if they're friends. That's kind of a red flag. If there's nothing laid out on an expectation, you're not signing anything, you're not agreeing to anything, you're just showing up and handing over money. Just kind of be wary of things like that, because that's where people can kind of get burned, in the long run. But as far as deliverables for the shoot, post shoot, so I've been to shoots where, it's very clearly laid out, your gallery of edited images are to be delivered to the host, and they will distribute to the other vendors. And they have to be done by a certain date. And if you agree to go to the shoot, you're kind of agreeing to those terms. There are shoots I've been to where the host has said, we would love to share your images, but you're not required to. You paid the ticket, it's your content, you don't have to give us anything. And so, there's some flexibility there. There's kind of an array of possibilities that you'll see, but typically vendors are signing up to do these shoots for a discount, or they're doing it for free. So they also have content to share. And there's nothing wrong with, when you are delivering the content to share, you are asking, please, this is still my copyrighted work. Please credit me. They should be crediting you. That's the etiquette. When you are sharing anything from a styled shoot, you should be crediting all the vendors involved and the venue and the host, even if it's another photographer. If it's a photographer that's the host of this styled shoot, I've gotten pushback on, well, I don't want to tag another photographer in my work. Too bad. Like, they were the host, and you can credit them as the host. You should always be giving the credit where credit is due, when you're doing these shoots, especially when it's like, everyone's kind of rushing to post at the very beginning, right after a shoot. Everyone wants to be the first to post about the shoot. And, I get that, but you definitely want to make sure those initial posts, they have all of the people credited that made this possible, including your host. So there's that bit of etiquette. But yeah, definitely keep that in mind. These vendors are doing these shoots because they want the content back so they can share. They're not photographers. They need your content to promote their businesses, to put themselves out there, to find their ideal brides. And again, it's just that spirit of collaboration that you should always have going into this.
Yeah. And I will say that the spirit of collaboration is unique to the wedding industry. Like in
Yes.
commercial photography, that's not the case. Companies buy licenses to your photography, you charge them for it. That is not the way things work in the wedding industry. And if you come into the wedding industry with that mindset, you're going to get like blacklisted pretty quick. People are going to be like, "Oh, you're uppity. You don't understand how things work." And it's
Yeah.
going to be bad.
There are people that, but there are people that come from that commercial side that, hot take, we're devaluing ourselves as an industry by offering so much collaboration, by offering so much for free. So there is a group of people that says, these style shoots, they're a waste of time because you are not getting your money's, if a vendor should be paying you for your gallery, whether or not they contributed. So there is a whole sea of opinions out there, but the general consensus is, like you said, the industry is collaborative. We should be a team. We should be working together. We should be lifting each other up. And, if you don't quite fit inside that bubble, I encourage you to go find your people that agree with you, because you kind of will be sort of outed, as you don't play nice with others.
Yeah. You'll be
And
difficult.
yeah, and it's okay. You're allowed to have those opinions, but you're going to probably end up finding your own group of people that agree with you.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I'd say like etiquette wise, that's pretty much the gist. There's other little things, but those are the big ones. Like play nice with others, and you are expected to give your images to the vendors who were at the shoot. And when we say vendors at the shoot, we're talking about like the florist, the table
Yes.
people, not the other photographers at the shoot. They're not, they
Yeah,
don't want your images, they have their own. We're talking about like the people who are helping put it on.
exactly.
So yeah, so
But
let's
this,
move into hot takes. Hot takes on style shoots are fun. I'll go ahead and start because I have one that I have voiced on this podcast before. It does make me a hypocrite and it is controversial. I'm going to say it anyway. Um, I have mixed feelings about styled shoots. I think styled shoots were one of the worst things to happen to like a consumer in the wedding industry, but one of the better things to happen to vendors. And the
yes,
reason I think that is because styled shoots are fake weddings.
they
And
are.
when
Yes,
consumers see them, they think maybe they can have that wedding for a certain price point. I think publications are really bad about that, using like really elevated industry, than saying like the average wedding budget's $20,000. And it's like, well, that shoot for an actual wedding with 100 people,
was $20,000.
right? Like
That's
that
pretty
would have
common.
been a $300,000 wedding. And so like I have an issue with that. And I also have an issue with people who have never done a wedding, but they've done a ton of styled shoots. Their entire portfolio is styled shoots. Can they actually deliver those images on a wedding day? Probably not, because they've never done one, or they're not doing weddings at this certain level, but their portfolio is full of weddings at a certain aesthetic. And like they could walk into that wedding and not know what they're doing because they're not doing weddings. They're just doing
Yeah.
these shoots. So those are my hot takes.
I will say I don't think those are necessarily hot takes. I think that's just the reality of, and people don't understand, if you're not in the industry, if this isn't your daily sort of life, you don't understand that, what's on this person's Instagram it wasn't from a real wedding. A real wedding is a whole other animal. You're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with people that, are in all different directions. You don't know what happened the day before you walked into that wedding day. You can do so much to support your couple leading up to that day, but there's going to be family dynamics and group dynamics and stuff that you have to know how to navigate. And ultimately on a wedding day, and I will preach this until, we put our cameras down for the last time. A wedding day is about serving your couple, period. It is not about your portfolio. It is not about your blog. It is not about, colluding with other vendors and like doing cool stuff. It is, if you are a wedding photographer, your sole purpose should be to give that couple the best day of their lives, period. If you don't have that intention as a wedding photographer, go shoot something else. There are plenty of other things. Go shoot, babies or couples or, whatever outside of a wedding day. So if you can't manage a timeline on a wedding day, if you can't manage different lighting situations, a styled shoot will help you learn some of those skills, and it will give you some beautiful images to share, but it's not the same as going into a wedding day. Before you take on weddings, and again, it might sound a little hypocritical. I can't talk. It might sound a little hypocritical because we didn't start our career second shooting, but I think especially as saturated as our market is now, you shouldn't shoot a wedding until you've second shot with another photographer. You need to spend a day seeing what it's like. There are skills you're going to pick up at a styled shoot. You're going to get beautiful images, but before you shoot your first wedding solo, you need to be kind of on deck on wedding day, seeing behind the scenes to see all these things. So
Yeah.
I guess that's my hot take.
I agree. The pace of a wedding day is enough to throw anybody. It is so fast. You have no time to mess up anything.
Yeah.
You can be on.
Style shoots are going to move fast too, but you can redo something. This isn't a person who's like trying to get on a dance floor with her mom because, there's going to be things on a wedding day that you don't expect. There's going to be a grandpa there with cancer. And if you're spending 2 hours just trying to get the perfect light in the sunset and she's missing time on the dance floor with grandpa, that's what the wedding day is about, And so you don't always have time to be creative, which is why we do these shoots, right? But your entire portfolio should not be just styled shoots. Your entire website should not be just styled shoot. And I say that as someone that does have quite a few styled shoot images on my website and portfolio because I love them.
Me too.
But yeah, right. So they're a great way to learn. They're a great place to kind of stretch your legs creatively, but it is not the place to go, I did this beautiful shoot. Oh, of course I can shoot your wedding.
Yeah.
They should not.
Pretending like a styled shoot was a wedding when it wasn't.
Yes,
I hate seeing that.
That's definitely a gray area where we see some photographers sort of fall into, and it's easy to do that, but
it is.
I definitely think it's a hot take. I will share a hot take. I don't think you should be hosting a styled shoot if you have no wedding experience. I don't think, I think creatively there's things that were like, that would be such a pretty thing on a wedding day. But if you've never helped plan a wedding, if you've never been a photographer at a wedding, if you've never been a florist, if you have no connection to the wedding industry, you just think style shoots sound like a great idea, you need to go work with a planner. Same thing, before you pick up a camera and shoot a wedding, you need to get some experience in the industry before you try to plan a whole shoot, because you're not going to know how to set things up for certain lighting. You're not going to know, again, just the basic etiquette between vendors and how to collaborate with vendors. You're not going to know what's needed. Some people want to put on a shoot for publication, and you've never talked to someone that's an editor for a magazine to know what they actually need or what they're actually looking for, or at least another photographer that's been successful at that, right? So I think there are some people that have wanted to start styled shoot businesses because it looks like fun and they get to play dress up, but they've just never been successful at actually putting on a wedding or helping with a wedding before. So that's probably my controversial hot take about style shoots.
Love it. So we've got 4 minutes left. So I wanted to get into tips for planning a styled shoot. Because you guys have put on quite a few. So
we've done a few that have been private for just some like specific vendors that we want to collaborate with, helping to launch a new venue. Like we've had very specific purposes for styled shoots. And then we've had a couple that, like I said, we've sold tickets to. We had an idea. We thought this would really help some, local vendors kind of up their portfolios a little bit. So if you're planning a styled shoot, I think the biggest thing you need to do is know your purpose. Are you helping to support a vendor getting new stuff for their website? Great. It can be smaller, it can be more intimate. You don't have to go over the top and have a state, you don't need a list of 20 vendors to do something like that. If there's a small concept you want to do with, a baker in town, or you just want to come shoot a few things with a solo model at a new venue, a styled shoot can be very scaled down. You don't need to go over the top with it. So knowing that purpose will help you know what you need to do. If you are trying to put on a big shoot that you want to get published, you want to have it be seen all over the internet, maybe you want it to go viral, you're going to need more vendors. It's probably going to be something you want to sell tickets to. And if you're doing something like that, you need to have the connections within the wedding community to be able to do that. People that are going to help promote your shoot, people that are going to be willing to work with you to, know that they're going to get something back out of it. And I can't stress enough the logistics of like being organized, communicating the expectations for the shoot beforehand, having, like I said before, having some sort of photography agreement of whether, you expect all the images to come back to you within a certain time frame, or you just are, hopeful that they will share with the vendors. If you are setting up a shoot and you're promising vendors a certain amount of galleries, you better be able to deliver that, or again, they may not work with you again. So keeping all of that organized, when you're having people there on the day, having a timeline and sticking to that timeline as best as possible. Things happen, you will have sometimes a vendor drop out, you'll have a model drop out. And so having people that you can call to kind of step in, always kind of having a plan B is really important. Knowing how to organize groups and laying those expectations out for the people that will be there is super, super important if you're going to have more than like 5 people. And communicating, again, that basic etiquette ahead of time, and having helpers there that day that can help make sure the groups are rotating and moving where they need to go. And just kind of keeping an eye out that things are sort of going fairly, so the big personalities don't sort of take over the day. Those are just kind of some of the big things that I've learned. Again, I was a middle school teacher, so like, I can get people in groups, I can get them lined up, but that's my expertise, I guess. Someone that may not have that past, reach out and ask for help about that. Talk to a planner that can help you organize that if you feel like that's not something you can do on your own. But yeah, those are my probably my biggest tips for planning a shoot.
I love it. Yeah, no, I would agree with all of that. Just, maybe don't do it if you've never done it before. Like,
definitely
help someone do it once or twice and then go do your own.
You go to a planner or photographer and be like, can I help you with the shoot? Just kind of be an extra set of hands. I guarantee they'll be like, absolutely.
I love it. Oh, well, we're about to run out of time on our recording here, but thank you so much for hopping on. This was great. And I hope that if you're new to the wedding industry and you're interested in styled shoots, this was helpful. And you can kind of get a glimpse behind the curtain.
Definitely.
Yes. All right. Well, again, thank you, Alisha. Him, her photo. Check them out on Instagram. Check out their website. They're amazing.